All right, we're back with more me versus Tezuka. All right, we got first turn again. We have another 8-8 corner, so maybe we'll be playing that again. We have two 8-8 corners. Ooh, fancy. All right, we have eights in every direction, though if we use either of our 8-8 corners, we lose 8 in one direction. He has multiple eights both left and right, so whatever 8 we give up will be sort of countered. He looks very bad up down. He has an 8 going down, but he only has four fives and a 4 going up. Now, that doesn't mean I can't start at the bottom of the board, right? Because if he ends up playing near the action, he will always have capturable stuff. Yeah, this looks like a really bad random for him. So we'll try to take advantage. He played great last game, so I wasn't able to. So if we play 8-8, 1-4, and 7, does he have any setup from 5 or 4? Let's check 4. 4-7-2-8 needs a 3 to the left. He has it. And that sets him up in 8. Okay? Do we get set up by that card as well? No, we don't. All right, let's check Midgar Zolom in 9, 8-1-4-7. 4-7-2-8 needs a 2 to the right, doesn't have it. 5-6-8-4 needs a 4. He does have it. That puts out a 6, which does not set him up in 8. Okay. 5-4-6-8 needs a 6. He has it. That puts out an 8, which also does not set him up in 8. Okay. 5-7-2-8 needs a 2, doesn't have it. 5-8-7-3. Okay, so actually, just to make this clearer, let's check 8. Can he be set up in 8 at all? Because it's not clear he can. 4-7-2-8 and 5-6-8-4 can't be. 5-7-2-8 can't be. 5-8-7-3 needs a 5 down. He doesn't have that. So the only card that can be is 5-4-6-8. He needs a 7 down. He needs to play 5-7-8-3 and 5. That doesn't set him up in 6. So we can play that. One thing he mentioned was he used the time last time during my turn to consider my 8-8 corner and come up with a response against it. So my instinct is, let's play this relatively quickly. Let's play this relatively quickly to try to not give him that time to use. And let's apologize. For these crap randoms he's getting. All right, what are we going to talk about this time? I talked enough about calculation and other stuff last time. Um, yeah. I was thinking also, what are like the main skills that triple triad players have? I used to think like skill at offense, skill at defense, skill at other stuff. Now I wouldn't categorize it like that at all. I'd say there's calculation, there's the width of positions you're comfortable in, position types, right? Like for me, I am very comfortable in L's and L type positions. I think those are positions I play and I calculate well. There are other positions I don't play and calculate near as well. We won't name what they are. Historically, a big problem of mine has been playing Jays. All right, so he already has a move. That does set him up in 8, so we will probably have to block 8. Remember, no plus wall. One thing to note is if we play something with like a 7 or a 6 up, and he takes with 5-6-8-4, it will set up a real threat in 6. We can't combo. So I think we're going to just play 8-8-1-4 and 8. And force him to set up against that. His only setups are 5-6-8-4 or 5-4-6-8 in 4. And there's a good chance we can just block 5 with something like 6-7-2-7. And our remaining cards are not amazing, but they're not bad. And I think we should have pretty good play there. Maybe it's just ties. But I think we should have pretty comfortable play there. Yeah. Yeah. I think we're just going to play 8. I think 8 is just like a much better square for him than for me. And there's not much point in trying to leave it open. If I could set up combos in 4, being all fancy, I can't. But if I could, and set up a combo in 6. If I could go in 5 and set up 4 and 6, it would actually be really hard for him to play 8. His only card in 8 that would be safe to both to 7 would be 4-7-2-8, which is not safe to 9. So if it flipped 9 and I could combo back in 6, I could punish. And 5-4-6-8. And if we could force 5-4-6-8 and we played in 5 in a way that didn't set them up in 6, we then take 4. We've made 7 and 9 safe. They only have 8 safe. That's probably pretty favorable for us. But I think, yeah. None of that. None of that. All right, so we tied the last game. Let's start inputting this one. We have Wazzup, Tezuka, getting nothing out of these big corner starters. I think that doesn't mean they're like the wrong thing to do. I just think he's defending them really well. I'm getting just no initiative against them, or very limited initiative. Like I mean, I think I was ahead last game, but just like not by much. And I think this game is looking like it's going to be the same. So yeah, width of positions you're comfortable with. I clearly am comfortable with these kind of L-leaning positions. Last game was also one of these. This is and the first game too, where I was on second turn, same thing. I played an adjacent corner. These are positions which I feel I understand pretty well and play pretty accurately, low mistake rate, etc. But there are other positions I don't play nearly as well. Say the J, where if there's not kind of obvious safety in the J, I often kind of scramble around for a move, don't know what precisely to calculate, and get in trouble. And we all have those positions where our mind just goes blank, right? I think this is really the way of thinking about it. The positions where just like none of the moves are clicking, no moves make sense to us. What's usually happening, sometimes we're lost, but what's usually happening if we're not like clearly lost, it's just kind of uncomfortable and bad, is we understand some types of moves and they don't apply here, but we don't understand some other types of moves that do apply here. And if we had broader width in our kind of knowledge and skill base, we would have more tools to deal with those positions, and we'd be less likely to be kind of floundering, desperately hoping to like have our eye catch on a plausible move, because we don't have the tools, right? And it's really useful to have the tools, right? The more positions one knows, the more tools one has. Okay, and the more position types one's comfortable with, the more options and ideas one can find, and the less likely someone is to be left in a position where your brain just goes blank because none of the moves appeal at all and you can't differentiate between them at all. That's the more that happens, the more that's a sign of, yeah, widening breadth of skill is useful. Like we should be trying to find some new ideas because clearly the ones our good old standbys aren't applying there. So I think width of knowledge is important, really important. There's also depth of knowledge, right? Like how actually good are we in those positions we're comfortable in, right? There's certainly going to be players who like they play all kinds of moves in all kinds of positions, and they're okay at all of them, right? But they're not great at any of them. And then there are going to be other players who are really comfortable in certain types of positions. You could also think of this in terms of rule sets. Like Haley Carnasso obviously is good at certain rule sets and perhaps isn't so good at other rule sets, right? And some might say elemental is perhaps a rule that some of us play better than others. Or perhaps more aptly put, some of us play worse than others. So there's width and depth of kind of knowledge skill, right? And then there's like ability to direct the game into positions you're comfortable in. I think this is an important part. I might call this like practicality. Like there's a whole bunch of just like practical traits. Like my thing I was talking about last time. I try to make most of my moves with 60 to 120 seconds left because I think it is practical to do that. I think I make bad decisions when my time runs low, and I don't want to make those decisions. In fact, I forget if it was, I think it was like my second open loss in the return, or maybe my first, was to Tezuka. And it was a position where I was way ahead and looking for a win, and I couldn't find a win. There wasn't one. I don't think I had one. No, I didn't have one. He played a good defense. I didn't have a win, and I was looking around, and at the last second I came across a different idea that I hadn't looked at yet, going for the T, and I went for it, and it was losing, and Tezuka played the win against me very quickly. And that was a really, like, frustrating loss, but it was also one that said, okay, when time runs low, you will make bad decisions. Don't do that when you don't have to. Make the reasonable decision. Make the highest pressure of the ties. It's fine. You don't have to win this game, and don't get in time trouble. All right. He goes there. So it would be really nice if we could go in 5 and control 5873 in 1. It doesn't look like we can do that. So for instance, if we played 6727 and 5, they likely go 5873 and 1. And then say I play 3577 and 2, 7184 is going to sweep up down. They have a maximum 1 capture. I always capture something back. We're fine. If they play something else in 1, they don't capture 2. So 3577 and 2 will be winning. They need to capture back there. Do they have a big setup in 3 against this move? No, they do not. Do they have something to do in 6? No. Oh, maybe. So if they take that from 6, then I probably play 7184 and 2, and 3577 has double captures on both sides, but I don't win if they can combo that. Can they combo it? If they still have 5873 in their hand, yes. But I'm never losing there. Never losing there. So don't have to be too fussed about that. So 6727 in 5 is fine for a tie. Can we get more than that? No, because they have the same in 2 threat, right? Yeah. Trying to make something funny work. No, okay. So 5 ties. What can we go 2? Could we set something up by going in 2? For instance, could we play 6727 in 2? If they put anything in 1, we go 3577 in 5. We will recapture 2. We will capture 4. We will be up 6-4. They will have no combo play. They will have no multiple captures, and our 7184 sweeps. So we win if they go 1. If they go 5, then we can play. No card now that they can play in 5 sets them up in 6. So we don't have to worry about that. If they go 5, we play 3577 in 1, and we combo everything, and I think we win. And if they go in... Note 2 also doesn't set them up in 5. That's useful. If they go in either 3 or 6, I think we can play 7148 in the other of those squares and rely on 3577 to sweep the endgame. My one worry is it sets them up to have 5468 in 1. And so maybe they can sequence it. Maybe they can play 4728 in 6. That doesn't set them up in 5. I can't be losing there. Can I be losing there? So this is the time when I'm going past 60 seconds because I have a critical move that I'm currently working on. Four, 7, 2, 8, and 6. I don't lose there. I don't lose there. Okay, I can go 2. I didn't have time to check 6, which I would have liked to be able to check, right? Because if 6 obliges 5, sometimes like I have enough down power, I'm just sweeping there. But I think their 5-8-7-3 is just too good in those lines. I think fundamentally, like I go 6, they go 5. If I go 1, they play 5-8-7-3 and 2. If I go 3, they play 5-8-7-3 and 2. Um, I think those lines don't work for me. So I think this is the best try. I think 4-7-2-8 and 6 is the critical reply. The point being, what I want to do is leave 3-5-7-7 for 1 and 5. But if I play 7-1-8-4 and 3, they combo with 5-4-6-8 and 1. So they play 4-7-2-8 in 6. I take in 3. I go up 6-4. They flip back 3 cards in 1. They go up 7-3. And I do capture 2 things back at the end, and maybe I have some better options somewhere. Oh, it does set up 7-1-4-8 and 5. I have a plus with 7-1-4-8 and 5. Does that matter? Probably not, because it has no other squares, so I can't use some paired square trick with it. But I didn't catch that immediately. But I think 4-7-2-8 in 6 is the critical line. Yeah. Anything else, I think I might be winning against all other moves. I like this move I just made. Now, huh, I'm in too much commentary voice. I said in the I said in the chat, apologies for these crap randoms he's getting, because that's what I said aloud. But I should have said you're getting, because I was talking to him. Oh dear. The brain's going. You know, once we had a brain, but that was long ago. That's not true. My brain works, I think, very well. But you always feel like we always I think like part of the reason people think their brains are getting worse is just because of like the general function of like everyone thinks they're who they are on their like 80th percentile or better day. This is really obvious with chess. This is so obvious with chess. So in chess, if you play like online chess, you play quick games, you have a rating. It goes up when you win, it goes down when you lose. And everyone's rating fluctuates, right? Um, and say it fluctuates like in a full 100-point range. For some people, it's more than that. For some people, it's less than that. But say you're like a 1500. Some days you get up to 1600. Some days you drop down to 1500. Most days you're around 1550, right? But no one thinks of themselves as that 1550 player, right? What happens is if they are that 1550 player, they think they're a 1600 because maybe once every couple weeks they reach 1600 and they think of themselves as that's their true skill. This is so evident if you talk to people. People will tell you their strength because everyone cares about numbers in chess, which is possibly why I care so much. But people will tell you their strength, and it inevitably will be at least their 80th percentile performance. Sometimes it will be like they'll think their strength is their best day of their lives. That's their true strength. And obviously, for any practical purpose, it isn't, right? Um, and some people are a little more circumspect. Like, I was trying to guesstimate what my strength was, and then I was actually like running what was my average performance over periods of time. And, you know, not surprisingly, because I'm like very statistically minded, I am better calibrated than most people, which means I still think my true strength is like my 60th percentile, right? Until I just started checking my monthly performances. And now I'm pretty well calibrated because like I see it constantly and I make myself see it constantly. But if I didn't do that, I would be somewhat miscalibrated. And I'm sure there are people who are well calibrated, but like almost everyone is just so off. Almost everyone is like, I beat a master once, therefore I could be that good. When like, what are you talking about, right? Um, yeah. So people think they are whatever they are, like their 80th or 90th or just 100th percentile day, right? And that's not true for any of us. And ooh, he hasn't picked up 4-7-2-8. This could be promising for us. 5873. All right, he picked the right square. This might work as well. It wasn't the card I expected, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Same idea. But this way, I have a triple capture in 5, right? My 3577 flips 3 things in 5, while in the other line, it only flipped. Oh, but he set up a plus in 5. I missed that he could set up a plus in 5. Now, that doesn't matter because I have the combo in 1. So let's calculate it out. 7, 1, 8, 4, and 3. Leave the card I have for 2 squares open. 7, 1, 8, 4, and 3. If he goes 4, 7, 2, 8, and 5, I take the plus and 1. I combo back so many things. I think I win 9, 1 there. If he goes 5, 4, 6, 8, and 5, that also combos some things. He already had the threat in 5. What am I doing? I've miscalculated a bunch of things. He already had a threat in 5. But I always had the response in 1. I did see that at some point. We just lost it. I'm sorry. But if he goes 5, I go 1, and it just, comboing through 4, through 7, through 8 flips everything. If he goes in 1, he has the combo, and I don't combo back, but I do just have a triple capture. So it's 5, 5. I'm going to capture 1 card. I'm going to be up 6, 4. He combos back 3 cards. He's up 7, 3. And I flip 3 and I win. So 3 wins. And so we'll play 3. Good games. He was very close to it. I'm not entirely sure 4, 7, 2, 8, and 6 held. I thought it did. And I think the reason I think it held is because 3, 5, 7, 7, and 5 doesn't have the triple capture at the end. And I think he came really close to finding it. And I might be wrong that it tied. But I guess we sneak out the win here. Pleased I found this move in 2. I will say, actually, I think this was another element of practicality. While I was looking at 5, I saw the idea of the move in 2. But I didn't look at it till I finished calculating 5. Right? I picked up an idea elsewhere. It was useful, and I wanted to make sure I'd get to it, but I wanted to make sure I finished my calculation so I knew what my evaluation for 5 was, so I wouldn't have to redo any work on it later, wouldn't forget where I'd left off, wouldn't think I had fully checked it when I hadn't, right? I finished checking 5, and only then did I move on to 2, right? And I think that was a useful practical thing. So practicality, time management, I think is useful. Regimented thinking and regimented calculation, I think, is really useful. So last moves, he played 5, 4, 6, 8. He didn't give me the 9, 1. Very rude. 3, 5, 7, 7, and 5. 4, 7, 2, 8 remaining. And we get the 6, 4 win. So I think practicality is a big thing. And I think practicality is one of my strengths, right? If we were looking at these categories, all right, so again, like, these were not easy randoms for him. And I think he did a really good job of neutralizing my pressure in these games. What were we saying? Oh, on this note, though, I think it's an interesting thing. Like, let's say you played a rule set where first turn was a humongous advantage. And you think 2 players are playing and one of them's better. If you knew that the weaker player would get first turn every game, and like it's close enough they should have a chance to win, and first turn's just a huge advantage, maybe it's like almost impossible to win on second turn, you'd go, okay, the weaker player is favorite, right? And sometimes with tournament upsets we see it works out like that, right? And in this it wasn't so much a first turn, second turn thing, but every random I just had like 3 cards to play, and he had a huge directional weakness, and I never had directional weaknesses. Right? I always had play in all directions, and he always was dead left, right? Except this one where he was dead up and down. So I lost my train of thought. Whenever I read the chat, I lose my train of thought. So, like, given these randoms, right? Is it possible he outplayed me over these games, but I got the win? I think it is entirely possible. I like how I played these games, so I don't think that's the case here. But I think it is very possible for someone to clearly both be the better player and play better and lose a match. It is harder in tournaments because you are responsible for your hand rather than your random. Um, but if there's a big enough first turn, second turn divide, it is possible there too. But I think that's, I don't know, kind of interesting. Um, I think kind of interesting. Anyway, back to the categories. So I think there's calculation, I think there's width of knowledge, and I think there's depth of knowledge. Then I think there is practicality, right? And I think there's creativity. And you could say creativity falls under depth of knowledge. Like the more different ideas you have around, the more kind of the deeper you'll be, right? Or sorry, width, right? The more creative, different ideas you'll find. But I think there's a sort of this is an unusual position. This is not like not this position specifically, but there are positions that come up that are just strange. And no one is going to have played many games in those structures before because those structures are just incredibly strange. Maybe cards like 4, 6, 7, 9, right? Is just very, very rare. And maybe it's easy to calculate if like there's an obvious move in 8 or, something. But those positions are just, they're going to be positions that are really unusual and don't fit the standard stuff. And there are also going to be positions that are usual, but the solution is very unusual. And the players that are better at finding moves like that, I think, are the players better at recognizing which squares have to stay on the board and which squares have to be removed and blocked. I think that's a huge part of creativity, right? Um, like Seto and Deli have made lots of moves like this, like say cards in 1 and 2 and they go in like 9 with just like weak numbers facing out. I have made one move like that in the return, and I'm very proud of it. I made it against Deli. But what I realized was I cannot interact with the board. I cannot play in 4, I cannot play in 5, I cannot play in 3. Right? I can't interact with stuff. I don't have setups in 6. I have no interaction with the cards on board. And he doesn't either. Anything he does near them also comes with major cost, right? And so I needed to find a move that didn't interact with what was going on. And I realized in some lines, I think I might be remembering this a little wrong, that 9 was actually a useful square for him and not for me. And so I got rid of a bad square and I didn't interact with the board. And I removed the only square on the board that didn't kind of in some way interact with it. So he couldn't do that as well. And that was a really hard move for me to find. Very much not in my style. But that was one of my more creative moments, right? And there are players who make moves like that and make them well a lot more than I do. Like, it's a little later in the game, but there was a game, Deli Akiyama, in TTAC, where there were cards in 1, 4, 7, and 8. And I expected Deli to go in 5 because I had miscalculated it, and Deli had not. He knew 5 was losing. And he found a tie in 3 that I don't think I would have checked, right? I don't think I would have had enough time to get to that move. And that's because he saw which squares needed to be kept open. He saw a square that needed to be removed. He saw a card that he needed out of his hand. A lot of stuff came together, but it's not going to have come from kind of width or depth of knowledge. It's going to come from his sort of ability to think about the game and understand the position and ask the right questions about that position, leading to the right result. And I would count that as creativity or some word like that. So those are kind of the categories I'd be left with, right? I'd be left with calculation, width of knowledge, depth of knowledge, practicality, and creativity. That doesn't really include inherently styles, but style should be treated, in my opinion, as something of weakness, right? when we say like it can be a strength, but like if I say someone has such and such a style, like to some extent, it means they're missing moves that aren't of a certain type. Now, TTA is a varied and complex enough game that you can play different styles very successfully. So it's not like you have to vary that much. Oh, did I yeah, yeah. So those, yeah, I did say all the categories I meant to. So we have these 5 categories, and you could put style on top, but I tend to think of style as a combination of width and depth of knowledge, right? If I have a very defensive style, that probably means I have deep knowledge in these set of types of positions, and I don't necessarily have a lot of width. But if I can combine having low width with high practicality, I can maybe veer the game reliably into positions I'm good at, right? And actually, I think that's a pretty good description of my style. I think, and my play, right? I think I am obviously a very good calculator. I don't think I'm the best calculator out there. I do think it's probably just Seto. Obviously, lots of people have a case, all the big names. Great Sephiroth, Yojimbo, Deli, um, probably like Nimloth, Karmazin, all the big names, Doc Evil, whatever. All the big names are fantastic calculators. I don't know where I'd stack up among them, but obviously, like, high end calculator. Okay, good at calculation. Width of knowledge, pretty good, but I don't think elite. I don't think elite. Depth of knowledge, closer to elite, and practicality, maybe elite, maybe top, maybe top. Um, and then creativity again, not elite. Um, I think I'm pretty good there, and I think I'm better when playing someone else's cards. Right? I will, in analysis, take risks or look at risky ideas more than I am likely to play them in my own games. I think that's pretty clear if you watch my video output. Um, so I would say, like, against the other, like, say the big four, uh, Delhi, Seto, Yojimbo. Um, I think I might be the most practical of them. I think I'm obviously a very good calculator. I don't know where I'd stack up in that group. I think my width of knowledge might be the narrowest in that group, but my depth of knowledge holds up well. My practicality, I think, is top, and my creativity is bottom, clear bottom of that group. But that group is very strong, obviously. So that's sort of what I've been thinking about recently. Not necessarily to apply to myself, but to think about, like, when you can define axes or facets of, like, strength, you can also start thinking about, like, how to improve those. And rather than increase my kind of width of knowledge, I have sort of increased my practicality and just avoided positions I don't think I handle well, which is, not ideal, but I am not the ideal player. I guess hand making and prep was never put in there. I might count that under practicality. In which case, maybe I'm not top there, but I think I'm pretty good there. Anyway, not important. I'm pleased with this win. I will be facing Seto sometime, and that's going to be a nightmare. But hopefully, we can pull that one out too. I like how I played all 3 of these games. I obviously never had to find a starter that took any effort to find, but I'll take that. I think I played pretty well after that. So go me. Good work. Good playing for my first games of the new year. And yeah, I'm curious if people hear those 5 categories, like, and are interested in improvement. What do you think you are better at and weaker at? And where do you think improvement would help? Like, for me, I think, like, width of knowledge is my is my weakest trait, or creativity, something in that range. And so finding reasons to make stranger moves is really important, right? Seeing stranger moves, trying to verbalize them to myself, trying to find reasons to play them. For instance, bringing up the Dully game again, but we could use it for this example. In this game, there were cards in 4, 7, 8, and 9. We had an L, right? And as I said, I'm good at playing Ls. I ended up basically only checking 5 and 2. I uh, I didn't check 1 and I didn't check 6, which I normally would have spent some time checking. But I never check 3, and I don't even know what to look for in 3, right? Deli makes that move in 3, and I'm immediately just confused. I don't understand what he was looking for to get there. And sometimes it's just that people calculated everything and did it really well. And that's great, but that's hard to repeat if it's not a move you even know why to start calculating it, right? You need some kind of hook for a move type you don't consider. So I would love to start understanding why people play in 3. And sometimes 3 is safe, or sometimes 3 sets up a threat in 6, but sometimes it does none of that, and it's the best move. And that's somewhere, that kind of thing is somewhere where, like, I don't have the tools to find that kind of move. I just don't have them. And it would be really nice to develop understandings of why moves like that might be decent. And that could come, you could think, and I've argued this, right? That you have limited time and you should check the main moves and you should not spend significant time checking the obscure moves, right? But if you have a really good understanding of when the obscure move works, you'll also have a good understanding of when it doesn't work and when you can dismiss it quickly, right? There's this sort of in between stage where you spend a bunch of time on it and, like, that time is wasted. But once you're good at it, you don't have to spend that much time on it unless it is in fact a good option. Um, and so that's an appealing thing. Should we solver these games? Nah, these videos have run kind of long, and I should get some laundry done. So I think we'll stop there. Hopefully, this was interesting discussion. Cheers.